Hey guys, Roxbox90 here with another deconstruction of your guys' EDH decks. Today we're going to do a Grimgrin Corpseborn deck, budgetary. So the person who sent it to me, I don't remember the name this second, it's in my inbox, I'll put it in the title of the video. He said that he's pretty new and that the scarecrow, I think, they're all new cards. For the most part, he tends to be more standard focused. So Innistrad sort of stuff made him want to do it, which is totally fine. There's a lot of older cards to be considered as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly run through the deck list he has here, as well as Grimgrin and the mana curve, and then I'll show a very good budget list that I found that I think is pretty good. That will be in the description to further develop. But anyway, let's get into this. So he's running Grimgrin, which is black-blue general. Grimgrin is a little kind of awkward. He's a piece, a synergy piece of the deck. He's really not on his own going to win the game because his abilities require that you're using other stuff. So he's an interesting general. He enters the battlefield tapped and does untap during your untap step. Has a 5 for 5/5, which is pretty solid body. Sacrifice another creature, untap it, and put a 1/1 counter on it. So you need creatures to be sacrificed and ways to recur. And whenever it attacks, destroy a creature and then put another 1/1 counter on him. So ways to do that is, so Vigilance sounds like a cool idea if you can make him not tap, and having lots of sack outlets and recursion sounds like that could make him pretty good too. It seems like your curve is overall pretty good. So let's run through the cards here. So Abattoir Ghoul it's a fine creature on the curve, I guess, although it's the life gain's kind of irrelevant, so it's really just a body, not the greatest utility. Armored Scab, you're probably not going to want to run the scabs too much because they end up they deck yourself, and unless you have a focus on reanimate recursion, which I don't know. You said you want lots of zombies and buffing them, not so much reanimation, so I'm not quite sure how many scabs you want to run. There are just better zombie bodies for what your goal is. Black Cat is terrible. It's just a terrible card. It's not good. It gives no utility, and the card at random it's nice, I guess, but it needs to die for that. So I don't like it as a utility. It's just really not that good a card. Butcher Ghoul has Undying, so if anything, that's better, for example, because you can recur him twice, and if you have a way to move 1/1 counters, I don't think you do, then even if you don't, then you get 2 for 1 with him, so that's not bad. Cemetery Reaper is, of course, great for any zombie deck. Crypt Creeper is also just a body. The ability is basically useless, so I would put something else in. Digraph Captain is great. Digraph Ghoul, it hits play tapped. It has a nice body, I guess, but this isn't standard. It's a fairly weak card for a 1-drop. You might as well run something more like Gravecrawler, which you already do, but I would run necessary either a better body 1-drop. I'm not quite sure if he's the best way to do things. Dread Slaver, I'm not quite sure I like it because it's really just a zombie. I don't think he's going to be particularly scary given the creature level of EDH, and so I don't think that it's really going to do very much for you. It's just a 3/5 body for 5, which is generic. Evil Twin is not a zombie, even though it enters a copy. I would run more other clone effects if you're going to run, because I don't think it matters. I would probably do just things like Phantasmal Image and Phyrexian Metamorph and stuff. Even though they're not zombies, they could easily be zombies, and they take care of equally take care of their opponent's stuff. Gerald's Messenger is really good in standard and maybe modern, but it's not fantastic in EDH. It's okay, but the 2 life is very little in terms of how much damage it's doing for the investment, because it's requiring hit play tapped, and the life loss isn't that great. I think he's fine, and particularly with Grimgrin, he could work. I'm just not sure he's necessarily the best on the 3 curve, because you also have, even though they're more expensive, not exactly super budget, but you have the Death Baron and the Lord of the Undead, who are both 3-drop on the curve and are just better for big zombie rush decks. So I'm not quite sure about him. Ghoul Raiser is okay, although once again it conflicts with the scobs that you run, because it doesn't give you control of what goes from the graveyard and not. But still saying that, I think that given that scobs are worse, I think Ghoul Raiser's fine, especially when you want cheaper zombies that you're sacking for recursion. It's a recur card, so it seems fine to me. Grave Titan is definite. Gravecrawler, obvious. I mean, those are good cards. Grave Digger is okay. For budget, I think it's pretty good. Having the Lich, he's a zombie, powerful zombie, and it allows you to recast guys, and that's fantastic for recursion. I think he's amazing. Runebinder, I'm not quite sure it's worth the advantage, because even though you give 1/1, you need to lose a creature that it costs 3 to remove a card, so you have neutral advantage. You get a token, but you lose a card that you could recur. You can't really recur the token, so I'm not quite sure that he's worth it. I don't think he is. Highborn Ghoul is actually pretty decent in your deck, because he has Intimidate, so if you actually buff him up enough, it could be a pretty sizable threat. You give him 3/3, 2/2, 3/3, 4/4, whatever, from counters or just general pump. That could be pretty good with the Intimidate. So I think like he's better than some of your other generic 2 dudes. Makeshift Mauler, once again, it's just a body, and it makes you lose card advantage. So as I'm saying, most scobs should come out, I think. Micaeus is pretty good. Scrapson, Drake, also just a generic body. You can't even block. So if anything, you'd run this because you want to block enemy commanders and stuff. He can't even block most of the commanders, because he can only block the commanders with flying. So that's pretty limiting, I think. I just think it's a fairly limiting card. Screeching Scob is also another Scob. Silvermur is not a zombie. Yeah, it does give you, I guess, a little ramp up, but then I'm not quite sure if you need it. But I think that this would fill a better 2-drop spot than some of your other 2-drops, because it allows you to ramp forward into more zombies. So it seems fine to me. Skin Render is better than some of your other. I like the -3 counters. So actually, for a budget card, I think he's actually not bad, because you can take down commanders, you can slow their bigger creatures. It's really not that bad, I think. Solemn, of course, is good ramp. Stitch Drake, once again, it's a decent body. This one's actually a pretty good body, but you are losing card advantage. So I'm not sure you're losing card advantage because you're getting rid of a card that you could have recurred. I'm not 100% sure that's worth it. Unbreathing Horde it's pretty good. It'll have a sizable body, and it's hard to kill via damage, although then again, it has nothing else to it, so fairly generic, but as a 3-drop, it's not terrible. Undead Alchemist, pretty good, because it gives you tokens, and EDH, since it allows any zombie to do damage, things like with that Intimidate zombie, Highborn Ghoul, things of that nature, getting your zombies through allows them to be pretty powerful, so that's fine. Vengeful Pharaoh is cool. I think it's cool for a budget card. So Wake Dancers, it's pretty good budget, but it'll give you 2 bodies for 1. That is, I think, pretty decent, especially when if you feed them into Grimgrin or just have, boosting. It's pretty good. Walking Corpse is generic, boring, bare, nothing, pointless. Same thing for the Warpath Ghoul. There's just better stuff, even in budget. Let's go on to your instance. You have Disperse, which is pretty good, I guess, although I don't know how expensive Cyclonic Rift is, but it would instantly replace this, I think, if you were doing that. Dissipate's a good counterspell. I'd run other counterspells too. They're not expensive. If anything, like generic counterspell could definitely go in here, just for example. Doomblade, I think you could run also maybe Go for the Throat. The sort of destroy spells you run, I think you really should make up a small sideboard just to be able to switch out since you're running budget. So maybe for different decks, different things. Essence Scatter, it's a limiting counterspell. It's fine, but I would still just try to run hard forms of hard counter, even if they're slightly more expensive, like Rewind and stuff. Guy Snatch, same sort of thing. It's expensive. I don't think the spirit matters for anything. It's not a zombie. Murder is fine card. It's not fantastic, but it destroys any. That's pretty good. Negate, also EDH, it's okay, but it's still pretty limiting, even in budget. I'm not sure. Rewind you have already. Think twice. That's a pretty small draw spell, even with the flashback. I would probably run more draw spells given your deck, because you're going to want to be playing stuff, especially with Rooftop Storm and things. I would run more either engines like Rhystic Study or Phyrexian Arena, which you may actually be running. No, you're not. So like Phyrexian Arena and stuff. Engines that draw more. Graveborn Muse is a good one. They're all in budget. So Think Twice is pretty weak. Tragic Slip is fine. I use it in my decks. I think it's pretty good. Unsummon also, I mean, I would just run Vapor Snag. You're not limited. If you're going to run an unsummon spell, just run Vapor Snag. And Victim of Night is actually overall pretty good, because it's a pretty solid destroy spell for EDH. You're not going to run into those types as often. But once again, you could switch it out for stuff. We got Blood Reckoning. It's a pretty defensive spell. I don't think it's that good. Crippling Blight, kind of the same thing. It's pretty generic, not very good. Endless Ranks is good, although I would have that Army of the Damned or whatever it's called, the big making gazillion guys. I would run that for sure if you don't have that. If you don't have that in here already, which I don't think you do. Ghoul Flesh is pretty limiting. Also, just run more destroy spells or tutors. Levitation, if you're having lots of zombies, makes sense to me. Rooftop Storm is fantastic, but you need a lot more card draw. A lot more card draw. Yeah, in general, you need more card draw, but a lot more if you want to be able to really just pump out the zombies. And more mana doublers and ramp. Spectral Flight is it's okay, it's fine, I guess. Zombie Infestation, if you have other recursion stuff, like reanimating things, like Shield Red, for example, she's not too expensive, I don't think. If you have lots of recursionary things, then Zombie Infestation could be pretty good. You got Diabolic Tutor. Many of the tutors are expensive, so that's fine. Disentomb is it's okay, it's pretty good. Ghoul Caller's Chant is really good. More Than Hallowed is fine, although you're not going to flashback it, but you just need bodies, so it seems reasonable. Ponder's a bit weak. Once again, I would do better card draw. Reap the Seagraft is not very good. Take that out. Rise from the Grave, Silent Departure is okay, and Tolerance Invocation is not zombies, so I don't know why you'd run it. So for lands, we have Cavern of Souls, which is really good, although you don't really have a lot of huge guys on the curve you should be worried about being countered. But if you have one, it seems like a fine card to run this deck, sure. Drowned Catacomb is good. Evolving Wilds, not so necessary. You're only a 2-color deck. I think you'll hit your colors just fine. Ghost Quarter is good. I would also maybe run some more land destruction in order to slow down the control decks that would try to slow you down. So, things like Tech Edge, you might want to run as well, Strip Mine and such. 10 Islands, 19 Swamps, seems like a good number of basics. Your overall land count's pretty good. You might want to make it a little less, actually, just to fit in maybe either some more card draw, some more guys, because I think your colors will be fine, and you'll hit your land draws maybe 33, 32 mana. Could be fine as well. So yeah, Reliquary Tower is only necessary if you have lots of card draw, which you should have. So if you're not going to do the card draw route, just take that out. If you are, keep it in. Shimmering Grotto is also kind of unnecessary for your thing. I would just run more basics. Artifacts, we got Bladed Pinions, which is for some reason flashing in and out for no reason. So Flying and First Strike, I guess, is pretty good for Grimgrin. Ring of Avos, it gives hexproof sort of thing. It's fine. It's fine, but why don't you just run things like Swiftfoot Boots and Lightning Greaves and stuff like that if you want to protect the card it's on. Probably Grimgrin. There's just better stuff that's equally budget, no problem. And Ring of Zathrid, it's kind of also, I would not do the normally I would say don't bother with Regenerate, but its second abilities, it's pretty good, especially if you hop it around from zombie to zombie. Its equip cost is reasonable. I think it's pretty good for this deck, especially with the number of black zombies you should have. So overall, I think it's actually a fine try at it. I think it's pretty decent. There's a lot of stuff you could change, and for example, I'll put this deck in the description. This has some older stuff and just a more functional casual build, casual budgetary build. So I will put this in the description as well, and you should be able to take a look at that. They give great comments and give recommendations for his deck, and it probably applies similarly to yours. So yeah, anyway, thanks for watching, guys. I hope this helps. Scarecrow numbers, Scarecrow something something. I hope this helps you with your build. Sorry for the delay, and hopefully I'll be putting out more deconstructing videos for you guys in the future. So thanks for watching. Roxbox90 signing out.